Hey, this is Erica from Ever Educating, and this channel is teaching tips, tools, ideas, and resources for new college instructors. Recently, I received a request to talk about creating a teaching portfolio. So I ended up in instructional design rather than full-time teaching, but I did create a portfolio digitally for sure, and I also started progress on one when I was on the academic job market. So I'm going to just share my experience, but I don't have experience with tenure portfolios. That's a whole different business. So I'll include some links below that are helpful as well. So to begin with, I recommend having a personal website where you have information about your teaching and also about your research. But in this case, focusing on teaching, maybe you have a really simple free website that has a homepage that talks about you. And then on the navigation menu, you also have, for example, in my case, I taught literature and writing courses. So I might have a tab called literature and a tab called writing. And then sub-pages underneath those, I would have English 125, 170, 120, 172, all the literature courses that I've taught. And under writing, I'd have 1101, 1102, Comp 101, etc. So that's a really simple design of just showing anybody who goes to your website what you've taught. And then in the pages themselves, I would include the overall course description, the course goals, the required reading list, the major assignment descriptions, and so on. And I would annotate them as well. So I'd have, here is the course description. And I might annotate it and say, I got this from, the program. This is what the course is about. And then here's a second part of the description, and I wrote this myself. I wanted to get across this, I wanted to get across that. The course goals. This was inspired by course goals that I saw from a colleague. I'm often inspired by the work of others. Right? My reading list, here's why I chose all these books. My major assignments, here's why I chose these designs in this order. So you basically give insight into your philosophy, your thoughts about teaching by annotating your description of each course. Potentially, you might have links as well on these pages. Here's a link to the exact syllabus when I taught this course. Here's a link to a major assignment instruction sheet, for example. And so maybe you have a Google Drive or a Dropbox folder that has all of the files tied into this website and tied into your portfolio that I'll talk to you about later on. And so that way you can have, here's a link to the syllabus if you want to see the syllabus, or maybe the description is enough for you. So that's one approach, having a digital portfolio that could help when you're on the job market to show hey, here's part of my digital footprint, who I am, right, as a teacher. I also recommend having a page that's your teaching philosophy. So potentially this might be another tab on your menu, or it can fall under one of your sub-tabs depending on how you design your website. I have an example of this on my website that I'll be linking below. I also have examples of these pages that I'm describing to you as well. But this is something that you would have in your regular portfolio as well. So maybe you're on either the job market or you're applying for an award and you need a portfolio. So what's included in it? Part of it is having example syllabi. Here are courses I taught. And other samples. So here's a sample of a major assignment sheet. Here's a sample of a smaller assignment sheet. Here's an assignment, a sample of a lesson plan, of a quiz, right? So you're gonna have a collection of samples from your courses. And once again, if you teach, let's say, literature and writing, well, maybe you're applying for comp positions, not literature positions. So you want to have samples of each type depending on what you're applying to. Now, other than sample syllabi and samples, again, of assignments in your course, you also want to make sure, again, to have a teaching philosophy in there. So this describes what are your values as an educator, what are your beliefs about course design and about teaching. So this can really vary how it's written, but again, you can see my own example on my website. You also want to have just your CV. So this is a regular CV that you would apply, again, for any award or position, would be part of your portfolio as well. Since this is focused on teaching, likely you could potentially have your teaching experience before your research experience. But if you're applying, let's say, for an R1 school or research-heavy school, then you might have your teaching below your research section. It depends, again, on the situation. But a CV is definitely key. You also want to collect your student eval data because that's something you likely have in your portfolio as well. So this could be just the numerical data collected, but also any comments you received from students when they submitted their evals. You might look for patterns in your evaluations, so you can have a little like contextual paragraph or two as part of your data section explaining, hey, here's this pattern. When I teach these types of literature courses, I am above average in comparison to my colleagues every single time, okay? Or of the questions asked, I always have the highest score when it comes to this element of my teaching. So having your data is important as well. So it really depends what an award or position might ask for, but these are, at least in my experience, the major ones that you want to have. You want to have the CV, the teaching philosophy statement, sample syllabi and sample materials, as well as your student data for evaluations included in your portfolio. So you can potentially have a lot of this on your website, but you can also, again, have a collection of folders on Google Drive or Dropbox, really nicely organized, so it's easy to pick out what you need depending on your situation. So I hope you found this helpful. Click like if you enjoyed it. Comment below if you have any other questions or if you have experience yourself getting a full-time job. I would love to have your insight into your portfolio as well.